also from the colleagues who are joining remotely via Zoom. But first, High Representative, you have the floor.
Thank you. You know, today our agenda was too long. Too long in order to cover all topics, because Afghanistan took a lot of time. Nevertheless, we have time enough to have a look at our relation with China that are experiencing complicated times, notably due to the issues of Hong Kong and Xinjiang. The ministers insisted on the idea that we need a pragmatic, realistic and coherent approach with China, that we need unity and a shared sense of responsibility. Also, we have to engage with China about Afghanistan. So competition, but also cooperation in trade and economic issues is also an important part of our relations with China. And after we had the pleasure to receive here, thanks to the initiative of the Slovenian President, my friend, the Indian Foreign Minister, with whom we had an exchange of view about what's happening in the Indo-Pacific region. Later this month, we are going to relaunch our work on this field, releasing a joint communication with the Commission on the Indo-Pacific strategy, and we share with the Indian Minister our views about what's happening in this part of the world, who is going to be the center of gravity of the 21st century. The Indo-Pacific area, starting from India and finishing in California, is going to be a part of the world where the history will be written. And Afghanistan is also a place in which the history is being written. We share with our Indian colleague our concerns about the situation there, the way the Taliban are going to behave, migration possibilities, all that. And finally, we had, in any other business, an important issue related with the deterioration of the situation in Belarus, and we had the opportunity to deplore that Lukashenko's regime cynically has been using during this summer migrants and refugees to artificially create pressure on our eastern borders, because the Lithuanian and Polish border are European borders. We said that when we had some migrant pressure on the Spanish border. We said the Spanish border with Morocco is an European border. Now it's time to say that the borders of Lithuania and Poland on the east part of Europe are also the borders of Europe. So the ministers stand in solidarity with Lithuania, with Latvia and Poland, and we are ready to take all measures to support them if the situation continues doing so. And about Afghanistan, I think we already explained the conclusions, because there are no decisions, but conclusions from the High Representative about the discussion today. From now on, the External Action Service will have to work a lot, because we have been tasked by the Council on coordinating the contacts with the Taliban, with the new government in Afghanistan, including with a joint EU presence in Kabul, coordinated by the External Action Service, if the security conditions allow for it. From there, we should support the departure of nationals, European nationals that are still there, and Afghans at risk that could be received in European Union member states as decided by them. There are many. All member states still have quite an important number of either nationals or Afghans that have been cooperating with them, or they have been identified as people at risk. the coordination of trying to bring these people out of Afghanistan will be in charge of the External Action Service that, if the security conditions are met, I insist, will have an anthem in Kabul. And the second task that the ministers agreed is the engagement with regional and relevant international partners in order to create a regional political platform of cooperation with the Afghanistan neighbors to face altogether the challenges created by the new situation. And I think the other aspects of our discussion about Afghanistan I already informed in our previous presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, High Representative. Minister, you can go ahead.
Hvala lepa. Najprej ne rečem, da sem zelo zadovoljen, da se teden zaključuje. Z enega preprostega razloga, ker se zaključuje diplomatsko najbolj pester teden v času mojega mandata zunanjega ministra. V ponedeljek smo bili na obisku v Madridu, kjer, kot veste, Španija tudi novi center za začasno zbiranje sodelavcev oziroma državljanov Afganistana, ki so v zadnjih 20 letih sodelovali z skupno zunanjo in varnostno službo Evropske unije. In ta pogovor je bil uvod v nadaljne 2 dneva Blejskega strateškega foruma, ki se je tudi zapisal v skupino oziroma zgodovino po presežkih glede udeležbe in tudi glede globalne pokritosti. In zaključuje se tudi 2-dnevno srečanje Gimnih, kjer se zahvaljujem visokemu predstavniku za skupno zunanjo in varnostno politiko za dobro vodenje in ključne poudarke pri usklajevanju stališč držav članic na področju odnosov z novo vlado v Afganistanu in tudi z ostalima 2 temama, ki smo jih obdelali v okviru tega Gimniha. Za eno od tem je zmanjkalo časa, ampak verjamem, da bo ta tema še na dnevnem redu poznejših zasedanj Sveta za zunanje zadeve. Kar se tiče odnosov EU-Kitajska, sem v razpravi poudaril predvsem pomembnost enotnosti Evropske unije v odnosih s Kitajsko in potrebo, da se ohrani skupni pristop članic Evropske unije. Glede na vse večjo prisotnost Kitajske v številnih diplomatskih oziroma zunanje političnih temah in krizah sem poudaril, da mora Evropska unija še naprej zagovarjati svoja temeljna načela in evropske vrednote in na podlagi tega tudi prilagajati svoje odnose z to velesilo. Posebej sem izpostavil tudi vprašanje kibernetske varnosti in ministri smo se strinjali, da je temu področju treba posvetiti posebno pozornost, hkrati pa tudi vprašanju zagotovitve oziroma zagotovitve varnosti strateških dobavnih verig Evropske unije, kar je posebej evidentno oziroma kaj posebej prišlo do izraza v času prvega vala pandemije COVID-19. Lahko rečem, da se je kot pravilna izkazala tudi naša že sicer pred časom odločitev, da na Gimnih povabimo indijskega zunanjega ministra. Namreč v pogovoru z indijskim zunanjim ministrom so tako lahko praktično z prve roke dobili izkušnje države iz regije in pogled države iz regije o razmerah v Afganistanu, okolici Afganistana in morebitnih posledicah, ki bodo nastale z prisego nove vlade v Afganistanu. Države smo še enkrat poudarile svojo željo in zavezanost k tesnejšim stikom, k izgradnji nove strategije Evropske unije do Indo-Pacifika in hkrati tudi pozvali k čimprejšnjemu dogovoru k sklenitvi prostotrgovinskega sporazuma z to najštevilčnejšo demokracijo na svetu. In lahko rečem, da je tudi strani indijskega zunanjega ministra bila jasno izražena volja po poglobitvi tega odnosa. In če je prej visoki predstavnik omenil, da skupno zunanjo službo čaka dodatno delo na področju odnosov z novo vlado v Afganistanu, lahko rečem, da jih čaka tudi dodatno delo pri spodbujanje k dodatnemu delu pri odnosih z Indijo v smeri čim bolj poglobljenega partnerstva z dvema entitetama, ki temeljita na v bistvu istih vrednotah in sta utemeljena na demokraciji. Toliko z moje strani.
Hvala, gospod minister. And now we take some questions from colleagues here in the press hall and also from the colleagues who are connected remotely. So first question, I understand, Televizija Slovenije. Go ahead. We have translation from and to Slovenian and from and to English, so we will use these two languages.
Dobro, torej eno vprašanje je za oba, torej ali Indija v odnosih z EU nadomešča Kitajsko, oziroma je to sila, s katero se bomo mi povezovali. In drugo vprašanje je, minister Logar, evakuacija še poteka iz Afganistana in ali je res, da bo druga družina oziroma drugi sodelavec že nocoj prispel v Slovenijo iz Afganistana?
Glede vprašanja, če Indija nadomešča Kitajsko, današnja razprava ni bila temu namenjena. Današnja razprava se je dotikala odnosov z dvema pomembnima državama. Glede na nivo odnosov pa je tudi ta načrt držav članic Evropske unije saturiran glede na karakteristike dveh entitet. Ker se tiče pa evakuacije, kot veste, mi smo obljubo dali prevzem 5 oseb, ki so sodelovali z skupno zunanjo službo Evropske unije in 2 oseb skupaj z družinama, ki so sodelovali v zavezništvu, in Slovenija bo to obljubo izpolnila. Skratka, v vsakem primeru bomo poiskali možnost in priložnost, da vse, s katerim smo obljubili, da jih pripeljemo v Slovenijo, da bomo tudi pripeljali.
I thank the Slovenian government for doing so, because we evacuated almost 500 people working with the European Union delegation in Kabul and their families to Madrid without visas, because if we had to wait for the visas in Kabul, they will still be there. Bring them to a hub in Madrid with the commitment of all member states to be redistributed. And I thank very much Slovenia for taking their part on its effort. India, the place of China? Well, no. There are different countries. India is an Indo-Pacific country. China is an Asian country. They play different roles from many different points of view. India will not take the place of China, because China and India are different countries with different economic structure and different trade relationship with Europe. But we want to strengthen our relationship with India. The first thing to do is to try to deblock this long-pending agreement on trade and investment, to push politically for this agreement, which is not just a matter of trade. It's trade plus politics. And secondly, to enhance our cooperation on the field of security, and Afghanistan provides us with a good reason to do it.
Thank you. Next question we take from colleagues joined remotely. Jacopo Barigazzi from Politico. Jacopo, your mic is open. You can go ahead.
Thanks, Peter. I hope you can hear me well. My first question, you have two questions actually, because one is on this joint EU presence in Kabul, because I understand, I read that you stressed several times that this is not a recognition, and there are now these 5 benchmarks. But I would like to understand whether it would be fair to describe this step as a first step towards recognition. And if you can provide us some details, whether you know already whether this means that the EU will send an ambassador or a chargé d'affaires. Second question is on the regional political platform, whether you discussed also the idea of having a regional conference with the countries interested as soon as possible. Thanks.
Well, no. This coordinated presence in Kabul through an European Union team is not the first step towards recognition at all. It's the first practical thing to do if we want to keep in touch, to reach out from an operational point of view with the new Afghan government, because we need to discuss about important issues. The first one, the most pressing one, is how do we evacuate the several hundreds of thousands of people who we would like to have evacuated by plane. It was impossible, but we know them, we know who they are. They have been working with us, or they have been working to build a democratic and free Afghanistan, and we are strongly committed to take them out. But this is not possible without talking with the Taliban. And it's much more easy to talk with someone you stay in the same city than through video conference. If it is not possible to stay in Kabul for security reasons, then we will go to Doha, which is the closest place from the point of view of reaching out with the Afghan government. It shows our will to coordinate the work of all member states. Member states are not going to reopen the embassy tomorrow. We are not going to reopen a delegation with a head of delegation as if nothing had happened. But we can have an anthem with people in charge of coordinating the first task, which is the evacuation of these people. And secondly, about the regional conference, I wouldn't call it conference as an event that takes place once and for all. No, it's a permanent coordination, it's a platform of coordination between the European Union and the neighbours of Afghanistan, because, you know, we will have to coordinate and work together for quite a long time, because some of the phenomena that we have been talking about, from migration to terrorism to crime, it's not going to just be a problem for 1 week or two. It's going to be for quite a long time and a structural issue in which we have to engage. And the task of the Council is, in the name of all member states, to develop this, let's say, a way of permanent coordination and sharing experiences and policies with the neighbours of Afghanistan.
Thank you. Next question. You wanted the question? Go ahead.
My question is for Mr. Borrell. A number of member states are apparently concerned that the EU response, that the EU's response could be seen as a blanket invitation for Afghans to leave their countries. Are these concerns justified in your view?
Who expressed these concerns? Who expressed these concerns?
There were reports that a number of Central European member states expressed these concerns.
Well, yes, we have been discussing, and this concern is not just a concern of a member state from the East. It's a concern shared by all member states, because no one of us wants to repeat the experience of 2015, 2016. So this concern is something that has been taken very much into consideration, and as I explained, we clearly say that the repatriation efforts that the External Action Service has to coordinate is related to the persons at risk that they will be received by individual decision of each member state on a voluntary basis in accordance with what the Home Affairs Ministers decided on the last 31st of August Council. The same thing, how do we implement it? And another thing is the benchmark in order to calibrate the behavior of the new Afghan government. And one of these benchmarks is the respect to the United Nations Security Council resolution and even the own commitments of the Taliban to let people to go out if they want. But it doesn't mean that we have any kind of commitment from the member states to take care of them.
Thank you. Next question we take from colleagues connected remotely. Nawab Khan from Kuwaiti Press Agency. Nawab, your microphone is open. Nawab, you have to unmute yourself because you muted yourself, so we didn't hear you. We opened the mic from here.
Okay.
Now it's okay.
Yes. Sir, one of the topics on your agenda was relations with the Gulf countries, but apparently you did not discuss it. So what was the reason for not discussing it? Thank you, sir.
Gulf countries.
Believe me, it's just a matter of time. At 1:30 we had to receive our Indian colleague, and at 3 o'clock it was scheduled this meeting. The Gulf situation is something that we have to be very much in our agenda, but today it was impossible. It was just a matter of time. The discussion on Afghanistan took very long, and it will take long on the next meetings, and this was not such a pressing and urgent issue.
We are still pressed by time, so we take one last question. Thomas Gutschker, Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung.
Yes, thank you very much. Question to you, High Representative. At the moment, the Taliban cannot pay any salaries in Afghanistan because more or less all of this money was provided by the international community. Do you think at some point it will be possible to restart these payments even to a Taliban government if they comply with the benchmarks? And could you give us some idea how far they would have to comply with these benchmarks? Is this a rather 70, 80, 90% issue or rather a 40, 50% issue? Thank you.
You know, this is not mathematics. What's going to happen in the next days or weeks or months is not mathematics. We know perfectly that Taliban are facing a shortage of liquidity, not just to pay salaries, it's to pay everything. First, because the international financial organization, like the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, has stopped any kind of disbursement to the Afghan new authorities. Secondly, because the European member states and the European Union has also stopped the development assistance, not humanitarian aid, but development assistance. So it's clear that there's going to be a shortage of liquidity and a financial problem. This is part of the reality, and the new Afghan government will have to deal with it, and we are ready to help under conditions. Our engagement is a condition-based engagement, not for humanitarian help. Humanitarian help is unconditional, but in order to have financial relationships, certainly there are conditions that has to be met, and these are the list of conditions in which we will calibrate the answer of the new government.
If I may just jump in, and does this also include direct payments to a Taliban government?
Payment for what?
For salaries.
Why should we pay the salaries of the Taliban government?
And that's the way it's been working for all this time with the previous government.
Yes, but it was another completely different situation. You know?
That completes the press conference. High Representative, thank you. Chvála, najlepšia chvála slovenským priateľom za odličné gostovanie. Thank you very much for participating and big thank you to the interpreters. Have a nice weekend. See you soon. Bye.